broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing aftershows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows. Interviewing celebrities and showrunners. And bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
There's the music. There's the intense music of Defiance.
So intense.
Oh, it is back. I cannot believe it's back already for Season 3, Episode 1 and 2, crammed together as
both
one.
Together, yeah.
Put together, the world we seize, semicolon, the last unicorns.
Mm-hmm.
And we're back.
Yeah, man.
It's just the two of us, but we're here.
Yeah, it is a dilapidated panel, but the panel's here.
The panel still exists. It may be down to 2, but we're
strong.
here. It's a strong panel.
We're like the last of the Omecs.
We are. You're a good call right there. And I am Scott Moore, and you can follow me on the Twitter at sman80. That's SMN80. And to my left, in the red plaid.
Hi, I'm Jesse Klein, and you can find me on Twitter at JessKlein1. That's JessKlein, the number 1.
Because you are number one. You're number one to me, at least.
Oh, thank you so much.
And we didn't plan our red and green plaid. We're just so in sync now. By the time we get to Season 3, that we just planned it.
Just happened.
It just happens
Christmas
through our thoughts.
themes.
It's
snowing in Defiance.
That's right. Winter has come.
It was
to
90.
Defiance.
It was 95 today in the valley.
But you wouldn't know it in Defiance.
Yeah, for sure.
So before we get started, I will tell you there's a great thing that you all can do out there. And that's the Podcast One survey. Okay, it takes like 3 minutes, 3 minutes or less. I mean, you'll get it quicker than you get something brought to your door at Amazon. Okay, it's podcast1.com. Go check it out. It helps us here know exactly what you all need out there, because really at the end of the day, it's all about you. It's all about you. So check out podcast1.com. Do the quick 3-minute survey. Let us know what you think. Let us know how we can make this the best that it can be. Yes. And if you're following along on the Twitter or the social media or anything else, we are at hashtag ABTV Defiance. So that way, hopefully, we can interact with you all. And I definitely love interacting with everyone from the beginning. Season 1, a shout out to Nadia J. Ryder on Twitter. She has been there from the beginning and a great fan, and was already tweeting to me before I'd seen the episode. I was like, what? What's going on?
Yeah. Yeah, I love interacting on Twitter and YouTube. Like comments back and forth. It's super helpful.
We do. We love hearing from you guys. So wherever that is, SoundCloud, iTunes, YouTube, please let us know, because we miss things a lot of times. We're watching and we jump right in, and there's definitely things that we miss.
Yeah,
so.
I'm super raw. I just watched it like 3 minutes ago, and Scott saw it when it aired. So like I am still like recovering from everything that's happened. I'm still like trying to process what happened in this episode. I'm just raw right now. I'm ready to go. What's going on?
Whew, I know. I mean, my God, what a crazy episode. And I was not expecting it. I was totally not expecting it. And good thing for a lot of people that were tweeting me before. Didn't give any spoilers, but
nice work.
But a very nice job of that, because we start from
there are a lot of spoilers that could happen in this episode. So much stuff that
happened. So basically, we're picking up 7 months later. Yeah. From where we were at the end of last season. Yeah. And
Nolan and Irisa had taken a nap.
Yes. Yes, and we see that. And I was going to kind of talk about a little bit of the Nolan and Irisa stuff, is that it tends to happen with a lot of shows, which is great. But now that we've been introduced to all the other characters, we get to see so much more of the other characters, and it doesn't necessarily have to be all about the lead characters anymore. Yeah. Like in a lot of ways, Nolan and Irisa could be out of the picture in a way, and you wouldn't necessarily miss them, because there's so many other well-developed characters now in the show, and that speaks a lot to the writing, and also just as the show progresses and kind of matures and advances, that you have enough backstories in these other characters you could continue without them. Yeah, for sure. I think that's an interesting kind of point. I mean, I don't know. As soon as they got released, I was like, okay, I'm glad we get them. Yeah, right. I mean, they are from the beginning, and it is really from their perspective and everything. But I had just noticed when they got released, to that point, I thought, these characters are so strong and have such dimension now that they can stand alone, and they have so many different arcs that they could go on with those particular characters.
For sure, and actually, that's gonna hit a point later on for me, because I'm just angry about this entire episode. Like, I'm excited about it, but I'm like, why did these people die? And why did this happen? Like, oh man. But yeah, it's interesting to kind of think about them missing like the last 7 months, like what Amanda had to deal with without having the law there. Basically,
exactly.
She had Berlin.
Yeah,
and that's it. Like it's interesting to think about like what happened in this town. Like they ran out of goulanite because the entire mine was caved in. Like they're dealing with everything.
A lot of stuff. Yeah, it was down to 3%. Yeah. Interesting. Amanda's mayor again.
Yeah.
So she's back in power, and I don't recall from the end of last season, but we don't know how she came back in. Obviously, we know with everything with what happened in the end of last season, but she got back into power.
I think it was just the everyone left, and she just kind of assumed power again. Yeah.
I guess she assumed power. The other thing that was great, I guess bigger budgets with the new season, is that just the visual effects have gotten so much better.
So cool. I mean, it started off, we see a new alien, like a new ship.
Yes, and that whole visualization with the pods landing, everything was
it was really cool.
Gorgeous. I was like, okay, more money now means they threw some more money at some of these visual effects and CGI because it was looking really good.
Yeah, I mean, at the beginning, I'm on board. I get to see a new alien. I'm excited. The purple, they kind of look like genies.
Yeah,
kinda
a little
bit.
They
got like a little genie vibe.
I got
to
like
them.
a genie vibe, but also like a vampire feel, which was kind of like, okay, we're kind of going with this mythological story point now because that's kind of how it felt with the whole feeding, and they're out in the dark and they have fangs and
the multiple sets of teeth.
Yeah,
I thought that was really cool.
It was cool, but I didn't want to feel like we're going down this vampire mythological road now with these that are feed on everything. And, but I was like, that's kind of a tired mythology. But I agree with you. I like the introduction of a new species, a new race that we thought was basically extinct.
Yeah, the Omec.
Yeah, so it was great to like see that in fact they're not, and they're going to be playing a huge role in this entire season here, which is going to be fascinating to see how it all plays out.
Yeah, I'm really interested in them. Omec is also the name of a tribe in like Central America and Mexico. They're the guys with the big heads. They made big heads and floated them down a river. Anyway, back to this.
Hey, that's a good point. The more you know. The more you know.
Yeah. I mean, I was excited about it. They're coming for goulanite. They're obviously, they have a technical advantage on everyone. They've got these awesome floating orbs that are doing all sorts of stuff for them. They're lighting the way. They're mining for them. She just like sends out 3 and it just spins in. I was like, oh, that seemed fairly easy. I wish we'd had those around last year.
Right. Like where were they at last year? We could really use the help.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that was, so we saw that, and you know, again, going back to sort of with Amanda and what the town is going through, you know, it's all gone to how the stasis net's down, so they're basically vulnerable to attacks. You know, the Mulcahy mines have basically collapsed. We see, you know, now the Omec are in there and using that to their advantage.
Doc's leaving.
Yeah, the Doc wants to get out, but oh my gosh.
Amanda convinces her to stay.
The great thing about Doc Yule is that she really has the best comedic lines.
She's my favorite.
She's my favorite.
My favorite.
And again, she, even though she's not the lead, she ends up having the best lines of every character. She kind of reminds me of so many other sitcoms in the past, like the Jackie to the Roseanne and those type of characters, you know, that are not the leads, but they always deliver the best like comedic lines and have the best situation. She always does. And there she was when we first see her again. She's got her sunglasses on because she's gambling.
Yeah,
it was hilarious.
She's so salty.
And yeah, she's like, I'm getting my yayas out, you know, like she's hilarious. And the thing that I never really noticed, and I guess it's kind of on me, is that the Need Want has that really like that saloon feel, that frontier feel that I guess I noticed, but I didn't really pick up on it until really, you know, the end of last season. But this season
with the
especially,
prostitutes up top,
right? And they're like gambling and everything. It just totally has that frontier like saloon.
I mean, this is a show that's basically about the Old West mixed with aliens,
right?
And so like the Need Want is definitely like that saloon. Like you would. Like there are some scenes like throughout the seasons that are almost like painting over an Old West thing with like an outlaw coming in and pushing through the 2 doors. And like even in this, there was a holdup, and there were people who probably used to work in the mines that were desperate for money, and Berlin comes and saves the day. I was like, oh man, Berlin still I thought for sure she was gonna leave.
I did too. I know.
After Tommy died,
I was surprised that she was actually still there when we saw her. But you're absolutely right, and of course these type of shows play into the bigger social commentary of what's going on in our world and just paint it a different picture by having all this mixed of races of alien races and different situations. But it really plays on what's going on in the world, social commentary, and you do see that in the type of show like this. But I just thought from the get-go, just compared to the past 2 seasons, from the start, how I felt like it was just a very well written episode, and you started out with the drama right away, and it just escalated from here on out. The
showrunner of this episode did a really good job on pacing. Like, it felt like they got the setup done in a very clean way. Like, it was like, this is an update on what all of the characters are doing. But they did it in such a way that it was also moving the episode forward.
Right.
Like, a lot of times, like, season premieres, like, it's like, it feels a little clunky because it's like, here's what this person's doing, and here's what this person's doing.
Here's what this person's doing. Exactly. And it didn't feel that way. And it felt like you were moving forward in a really quick fashion too. Like, it was really well done. I'm wondering, and again, it was sort of like last season when they put the 2 back to back for the season's finale. Like, I'm wondering why and it just could be a SyFy scheduling thing, but why jump in with the first 2 episodes kind of combined? Like, what was the reasoning behind it? I get it. By watching it helped.
I'm glad they did.
I'm glad they did, but I was wondering if the reasoning was a certain reason, or they're going to do that are they going to do it at the end too, and kind of cut at corners or whatever, because it always has me concerned when they do that, like they're trying to burn episodes quick at the same time. But that's just the network side of me that's worked in that world and kind of always gets nervous about that, because it just feels like the show is finally getting into its stride. It's now in the 3rd season. Like I was saying, you have these other characters developed, you have really good writing, you have really good drama this year, which already it's set right from the beginning.
Well, I think maybe it could be that scheduling thing, but I think what I like is it kind of set up the energy for the rest of the season. Like, it felt like a good way to set up the season and really make sure that the energy was right, and that we've got these characters, like these huge kind of moments that happened here and really pushed it through. Like, a lot of the big reveals happened in the first half. Like the first hour. Like the big things happened in the first hour. So it was a great way to set up the rest of the season. I think like, if it was their choice, then it was their choice to be like, this is what we're doing, deal with it. Like, this is what this season's gonna be like. This season, like, I don't know, no one feels safe to me.
And that's the way exactly the way they set it up. They totally did play it off that way from the beginning, and that's again what I thought was great. And you have sort of these 2 new enemies now that are starting off from the first season, and now we got to see how it's all gonna play out. And like you said, they've obviously made it show that nobody's safe,
because then we meet Daytak, Stahma, and Rafe, and they're tracking Pilar and Christy and Alec and Luke, and we get introduced to this new antagonistic force in the VC, and this great character in General Rahm Tak, who I hate him so much. I hate Rahm Tak, and I don't like him, but he's also, the actor is killing it. Good. He's doing so good. Like, he's knocking it. Like, he's so charismatic.
He's so good.
He's so charismatic, and you want to like him so much. And then just all of his actions. He drives a vehicle that has human heads on the top of it. Like, he's not a good guy.
No, not at all. But that's what's so great about him is already, he comes, and I remember he was like in Wayne's World or something, and I was trying to remember where, because I had researched him a little, like, when I was watching the episode. I'm like, God, I don't remember, because he had all the makeup on. So if anyone out there knows, tell me what character he was on Wayne's World, because that's one of my favorite movies, and I'm just trying to place him. But from the get-go, you see that this is a bad dude. This is not someone you want to mess with. He's got a lot of power, and obviously, like, running the show here with the VC. And again, great job with the human heads and the human ears, and that he's like going in to eat and everything.
So gross.
But it was fantastic. Like, I was like, yay, yay to SyFy getting some good props in there and making it happen and show just how ugly this guy is. But it's also like, I get where I can get where he's coming from. You know, he wants to come over and take over, and the humans are just in the way.
Yeah, well, I mean,
he's got to take him out.
I mean, later on we get a little bit of his backstory, and we're like, oh man, this guy's a little screwed up. Like,
of course,
he doesn't just want to kill all the humans. He wants to then become the humans.
Yeah,
like he wants their skin, he wants their clothes, he wants like all of this stuff, and it's like, oh man, this guy is a big weirdo, folks.
Yeah.
He's a weirdo with a lot of power. So I'm really looking forward to seeing more of him. I like that Rafe gets a good jab at him. He calls him Edgar Winter. And I was like, that is pretty much what he does look like. He looks like a great guitarist.
Yeah, that was funny too. He's like called Rafe pink skinned.
Yeah.
It's like that's such an interesting, again, like on social commentary, it was such an interesting way of like referring to Rafe, you know, pink skinned.
Yeah.
Being human and all, but
and like again, they think fast. I like that Datak and Stahma immediately are like, Rafe is family, we've got to protect him. Like, they think fast, they make it look like they captured Rafe.
Right.
And are trying to get in there. And it's like, every time I feel like Datak and Stahma, because I'm so used to them outmaneuvering people, like, they're always, like, the more clever person in the room. They're such good schemers. And every time it felt like they'd outmaneuvered Tak, he was, like, three steps ahead of him.
I know, it was great.
It was so frustrating because, like, oh, now Datak's gonna get him, or like now Stahma's probably poisoned his food or something like that. It's like, no, this guy's so many steps ahead of them.
He's out manipulated the main manipulators. I know, because you always felt like they were always scheming. So it was almost like, oh my gosh, you saw them had their power usurped, and you kind of felt like, oh, you kind of felt for them, and seeing them taking care of Rafe because he's part of their family, which. Yeah. And so many times in the past couple episodes, they were fighting each other, and you know, again, they were always scheming. So it was interesting to see them teamed up, and have their power usurped from this guy. So you saw it was like a big baddie, and he's definitely taking the control from the first episode. Yeah, and no holds barred at all. And I mean, cutting ahead, like Datak has that great line where he's like, they may have been humans, but they were our humans. Right. And it's like, oh man, he's pissed. Like, Tak's not gonna die well. Like when he dies, it's not gonna be a nice way. Right. Yeah. It's really interesting because all of the main characters all feel in a very dangerous position at the end of this episode. Well, because they all are. Yeah. I mean, that again, sort of what you were saying a second ago is like, nobody's safe because of what happened. Yeah. At the beginning of episode 1, it's setting the stage for the entire rest of the season. Yeah. Because if you're able to wipe out all those characters right away, then you're right. You're setting it up to like it's not being safe. Yeah. For anybody. Yeah. And for sure. I think we're going to see a lot more people fall because obviously we saw some of the, and we can save a lot of this for predictions, but we saw a lot of the stuff
coming forward,
right, and kind of being put out there. But yeah, I mean, do we even want to go into the whole scene there with Rafe? And
I mean, we can. I mean,
it's so intense.
Rafe, like they find the house that Christy and Pilar and Quentin and Alec have been at. Pilar and Alec have gone out to get wood or something like that.
Well, I mean, because they had Alec, she had him chained up. Yeah. He was the only one chained up there. She had him chained up, you know, because again, she had some good lines too, though. Yeah. I mean, obviously hates his parents kind of going back to the scheming thing. Yeah. Again, jumping ahead, but her line about, you know, her basically saying, you know, what was it? I wrote it down.
She said, like, I kill strangers for my family. Your family kills their
strangers for themselves. Yeah. It's like for their own self. God, I want to find that line because it was so good.
It was a really good line. Yeah. Well, and then Quentin stays with Christy, and
there we go. It was Pilar. She said, kill strangers to take care of family. But your parents kill family to take care of themselves. Yeah. And that was such a good line. So it's sort of where she has this whole thing against him and has him chained up from the beginning when at the house there.
Pilar is also just an insane person,
too.
No,
she's totally insane.
Like, it's like, there's no... Poor Alec has just been in the worst scenario for a long time.
From everybody, from every angle, from his parents and his family to Christy to... You know, her mom, I mean, everybody. He's had to deal with all the crazy.
There were like 2 episodes last season where he was having a nice time. He had a radio station. It was great.
Exactly. And even then, it was very brief for him. Yeah. So, but never had it easy, that poor kid.
But the VC find it, and they come in, and Quentin, who used to be part of the VC, comes in and is like, saying what he's supposed to say in order to be like, okay, guys, it's cool. On. And then, man, General Tak just executes him.
I know, and I know this is really
the beast,
really crazy, but it just, to me, and I could be way off, but it had that feeling of like almost like a World War II type feeling. Yeah. Where it's like these people are coming in and invading everybody and going to everybody's house and like trying to root out people, and they don't care who they are. They're gonna kill them off if they don't agree with them.
Even the house kind of looked like a French countryside house.
Sort of had that in the woods and everything. But that was what I was taking from, is sort of like a throwback to that, and this general sort of like a Hitler, like someone that's like going to go take over because he hates these people, and it's just a whole. Ugh.
And Quentin just dies in front,
which was crazy.
In front of Rafe. In front of Rafe.
I mean, that was the first one where I was like, oh my god, they aren't messing around. Like point blank in the head, right in front of Rafe. I was like, wow, this is something you almost feel like would happen at the end of a season. Yeah. As a cliffhanger, not at the start off the season.
Well, it was like that, and I was like, okay, okay, Quentin died. Now everyone else is safe. Like, they're not going to kill off anyone else. Quentin's a main character. Right. They're not going to kill off another main character this episode. And so the VC go in the house. They start raiding it. Christy's there. She's hidden Luke. Luke's been hidden. They find her, though. And it gets revealed that she is related to Tak and Stahma, and they're going through it. And Quentin, Tak slips Quentin a little saw. He gets free and he goes on a rampage, a really cool rampage. And I was like, oh man, Rafe's gonna save the day. Yeah, Rafe saves the day. Right. Rafe always saves the day.
Exactly, he always saves the day. Yeah. He's always been there for everybody from the beginning.
Yeah, it's old Rafe. He's old reliable. Yeah. Probably my favorite character. Yep. Gets shot. He just gets shot like 4 times in the
point blank
in the chest a bunch of times. And then Rafe dies.
But at first I was thinking, okay, that was too easy, and then he came back and he was alive. I was like, oh, maybe he'll pull through, but I was like, there's no way, because he was shot through the chest. But I was still like, oh wow, like he's still hanging in there. Like, this is great, because he's always been one of my favorite characters from the beginning too.
I was like, maybe there's some alien science that'll bring him back.
Yeah, right. Like Doc Yule will do something and he'll be okay.
Last season there were a lot of people dying and getting resurrected. Maybe we'll see that. Not the case. Rafe dead.
I know.
And then I was like, okay, Quentin's dead. Rafe's is dead. No one else is dying.
But wait.
And then General Tak is like, I'm not sure whether Stahma and Tak are loyal to the cause, and he gives Stahma Tak's knife, and he's like, either you stab this girl, or either you kill this girl or I kill your husband. And that's as Alec and Pilar are looking through the window. And it's like this really intense moment, because Stahma, a lot of her arc last season was accepting Christy as a daughter and kind of really like letting her in. Like, I think last season Stahma did a lot of growing in accepting Christy as a daughter. And so there's this struggle that Stahma has, because you can see it. I mean, it's not a great position to be in. Like,
right. It's like, oh, do I do this or do I kill her? Like, what do I do in this situation? And that was so intense. And it kind of goes back to earlier too, with part of the VC, and also with Stahma with her own issues of like the mixed breed kid, and which I always think of the Cher song every time. Mixed breed. But anyways,
is that the one where she's like on the back of a horse? Yeah, okay.
So that always comes to mind, because as soon as I said mixed breed, that's all that goes in my head. But everything always goes back to Cher. But but so it was like her struggling with that too, because I know she's always struggled with, like you said, with Christy being not of her race and her alien race and everything, and always struggling to accept her, and having that moment where she's having to decide, what do I do here? It's like there's no easy answer.
Yeah.
Does the husband get, or do I have to kill? I mean, that was, oh my god, that was so intense to watch that.
And then Christy kind of moves towards the blade, like she goes for it.
Yeah.
And I was like, what's going on?
I couldn't, it was so intense, and then actually watch her do that, I was like, wow.
Why did she, I mean, it's because she wanted to save the baby. She wanted to make sure that the baby wasn't found.
It was still so intense, though. I could not believe that she actually did that.
And then Christy died.
Yeah.
3 members of the McCowell family, all dead.
In the beginning of the first episode of the season. It was crazy.
3 main people with lots of lines throughout the entire series just gone.
3 main characters, 3 very vital characters, and then the worst, it was even more heartbreaking at the end of the scene when you just hear the baby crying.
Yeah,
and there's nobody there, and I'm like, oh.
And you see,
killing me softly.
Alec and Pilar just kind of reacting to it, and to them it just looks like Stahma just stabbed Christy, and they have zero context for it,
right?
Which I'm sure will come up later in the series. There's going to be, there's already struggle between him and his parents. There's now it's going to be times 10,
right? His own wife, mother of his child being killed by his own mother. Doesn't get more effed up than that right there. Talk about having to go to therapy forever to deal with that.
That's
no therapy there in Defiance.
I don't know what you do for insurance then. Doc Ewell, maybe?
Does she do it all? I know.
I don't know.
Does she take human insurance? I don't know. Because that's a lot you have to go through. But that was just such an intense scene again. And I had some people that were kind of commenting before I saw it. I was like, I wasn't expecting such a dark episode. I was like, what? Okay,
that was
what are you talking about?
Yeah, I remember watching it being there's got to be it was fake bullets or something. It's no, these people are just straight up dead. They're dead people
from the beginning. So we've set the stage.
Very violent episode
with a violent series, but with the VC trying to take over.
Yeah,
and then on the flip side, you've got the Omec that are there and are basically up to no good as well.
Yeah,
that are using this to get what they need to be able to bring their people back.
And their first thing they do is not terribly evil. They don't kill Nolan and Irisa. The girl, what was her name?
Kinsey.
Yeah, Kinsey wanted to eat them. But I'll find it. But Tevgen. So many alien names.
Yeah, Tevgen.
Tevgen was like, no, hold
her
it.
Dad.
Yeah, hold back. And then so they wake up in the snow, and they are like, what's going on? They've got cuts on their heads, and we find out that Arisa's kind of dealing with some PTSD. She's, very rightfully, she's got a lot of guilt because she bombed New York and killed Tommy. And killed a lot more people, even though she was being, influenced by the machines.
Right.
She's still
taking responsibility for that,
and she still has those memories. Right. And so, she's got this real bad case of PTSD, understandably. Which I think is a very interesting position for her to be, because she used to be so reliable for Nolan to be kind of his second in command. She was an effective law person, and now she's kind of holding back and trying not to be as violent. Which, after seeing what happens in this episode, non-violence might be the way to go.
Well, what I was going to say, with everything else swirling around them, it's almost like she has to be the one, the rational, level-headed. But the great comedic relief about this whole, 2 episodes was, the book being written about her.
Yeah. Man.
That was so funny. And she's like, what? She's like, oh, you're the one from the book.
This fantasy novel.
Yeah. And the guy wants it signed for his boyfriend. Can you sign my book? When she's out there in the middle of this is so funny. What a great little comedic relief to have all that. So now she's this little mini celebrity.
Yeah.
In the midst of all of this craziness. I'm like, who wrote the book?
Yeah. Who did write that book?
Who wrote the book? That's something we'll have to figure out, who wrote that book. But,
and then Berlin comes and beats the heck out of her because she killed Tommy.
Right, of course. She's pissed off, rightfully so.
Yeah.
And again, I didn't expect to see Berlin here, but I guess after you kill off everybody, you got to keep some faces in there.
Yeah, and it makes sense that Berlin wants to stay and become the law, especially after Tommy died.
Right, and no one's out of the picture for the past 7 months, so you need someone in there to fill that vacuum. Yeah. Exactly.
And she's just she's so angry. They're not done. That relationship is not done between Berlin and Irisa. That's an anger that's going to go through the entire season, I'm pretty sure. I think eventually they'll probably reconcile, but right now, of course, she's angry with Irisa. Irisa killed Tommy.
Right, of course. Again, rightfully so.
Yeah.
So you have that going on, and again, as we're kind of going back to the Omecs and sort of what they're all about, did you feel like there was this attraction between Kinsey and Nolan.
Yeah, there was a weird,
like there's that weird vibe.
Weird sexual tension.
There was definitely sexual tension there, and I was like, oh, he wants to be licked by her. Like when she was doing that whole thing, like there was definitely something there, and I'm wondering how that's gonna play out.
Well, the actress who is playing her is playing her very animalistic,
right?
And like she's kind of like stalking him in that stall, and it's like, oh man, are they gonna...
Right, there's definitely something going on there.
I feel like they're gonna hook up.
Yeah.
I was like, there were times in that stall I was like, are they gonna hook up
I know,
right now?
right? Like right now?
Like right in front of everyone?
Or is that gonna be some tension
be later? Yeah.
That they're gonna hold on to for a while? But I wasn't sure if I was the only one that kind of felt that, or if I was just totally off. But
no, I think that was
definitely some tension there. I was like, ooh. He wants to be licked by her.
Yeah, and I think I like both of the actors who are playing the Omec. I think they're both playing them very interesting. They're both believable as part of the same race, but it's very believable that Kinsey kind of reminds me of Irisa in a lot of ways.
Exactly.
As well.
I was going to say that
like she's very feral.
I felt like it was very much the same dynamic that Nolan and Irisa. It's like they're the same dynamic.
Except I don't feel any sexual tension between Irisa and Nolan, and I feel a lot between Kinsey and Nolan.
Yes, but but they're cross. Right. I'm just talking about like the father-daughter. Yeah. Between what's his name? I always forget it now. Tevgen and his daughter is very similar to Nolan and Irisa. That dynamic, and sort of it's like the two versus the world kind of feeling, you know, and so it's sort of they're parallel in that sense.
Yeah, and Tevgen has the best voice in TV. That guy's got a great voice. I just watched it, so I didn't look up any of the actors, but I'm guessing that guy does a lot of voiceover work.
If he doesn't, he needs to get into that because he's
I was like,
great.
why isn't everyone just doing what he's...
Yeah, he's probably someone obvious, and I can't tell with the makeup and everything on. And I'm like, and everyone's gonna yell, but I hope you do. Like, comment, tell us who these people are. Please tell us.
But I was like, why isn't everyone just doing what Tevgen's saying? Because it sounds awesome. But like they go back to the mines because Amanda's like, we need fuel and we don't have it, and Nolan's like, well, we got out of there somehow. There's got to be a way back in, and they go back to the mines and they actually shoot Kinsey, and they take her, and Doc Yule knows what race they are.
Oh, yeah. Doc Yule, again, best lines of the night. You know, what's with all the cloak and dagger? And then, you know, she sees who they are, and she's like, oh, conquer, kill, devour, which, again, sounds like a great, like, slogan for a presidential election, you know?
She's like, put it on a t-shirt. Yeah.
Yeah, so you don't forget it. That was great. Yeah. Like, so funny.
And like she's like they're a predator race, like they're cannibals, which we find out is like a mistranslation. They're not cannibals; they just eat everything else
but themselves. Yeah,
yeah. And then we meet. I don't know if we've met this guy before, but Kuroko, who brings out this like. This text about the Omec, calling them devils, and talking about the dread harvest, and his son is there, who's like, it's all phooey. Yeah. Don't worry, son. You learn very soon it's not phooey.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because he dies. Kinsey kills him, and then there's like this lynching mob. Yeah. Like they go after Kinsey. Yeah. And beat her up with sticks.
Yeah, the bookkeeper. God, what's his name? Because he's was killed too, and he's been around since the beginning. Saruko.
Yeah,
Saruko.
Saruko. Oh, I was mispronouncing it. I guess it's Saruko.
Okay, it's silent.
Yeah. Yeah. He's like leading this lynching mob. Yeah, and they're gonna kill her, and then they break it up, and they're like, get out of here, dude. And it gets really intense.
Yeah, it does.
And they make a deal with the Omec for the Gulenite, 50-50.
Which was a pretty good deal, I thought.
Yeah, it was a smart move. Yeah. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like it's smart to deal with these people.
No, it's not smart. But at the same time, before we get too far along, I also was going to go back and you know, with the VC, we see Pilar and Alak on their own journey, and then you know, Alak gets caught.
Yeah.
And now he's in the web too from the VC.
Yeah.
And you know, like again, he's the general's all about like taking over. Like, and again, going back to historical and social commentary, he calls it manifest destiny.
Yeah.
And again, kind of what you're saying earlier about them being the schemers, he has the best line about them saying, "You two are a bunch of treacherous snakes, and will just disappear into a woodpile if I let you both go."
Yeah.
You know, so it was basically like, it wasn't until he caught their son that he realized he had a play now, like an emotional attachment, and now he can send them both back into town knowing that they're not going to work against him because they're wanting to make sure their son gets back safely. Yeah, that was a huge power play because Daytak and Stahma were on their way to kill him. Right. Like they'd fashioned shivs. They're the letter openers and everything. Yeah, the letter openers, and they were going after him, and they're like, "Nope, we got Alec. He's got so much leverage on them." He does. It's crazy. And you know what? Like, I kind of like getting into what's going on. Like, it's bad news all around. Like, there's nothing good like, there's not a positive storyline right now. No, it's all like bad. Because Pilar now has Luke, and she's singing Queen to him, and it's really creepy by a fire. They're just like out in the woods. I know. They always throw in that cheesy music, and they still kept it up here for this season. One more thing before we go to predictions, though, is that whole stuff where, you know, Doc Yule has to have a chunk of her skin taken off. I don't know who I like anymore in this show. I know, that 6x3 protoform to be able to fix, Kinsey's wound, which I thought, again, she has that great line, like, I'm just like a big tub of spackle. Yeah. You know, but it was fascinating because they drugged and skinned her. They basically skinned her. On one hand, I was like, wow, no one's very trusting of the Omec right away. Yeah. Like, I would have been like, are you sure they're doing this the right thing? Because he's like, oh, it's not going to hurt her. I'm like thinking, you're taking out a 6x3 inch chunk? Like, that's not normal. A huge chunk. Yeah. You don't just take it off. And the fact that he was so trusting to these new people and not to the doctor that he's known for years now, and knowing what her feelings were and how fearful she was of them, and he didn't seem to take that into account at all, which I thought was interesting. I was so pissed. Like, I was like, why are you doing this? I was like, poor Doc Yule. Like Doc, I mean, I kind of hope the Omecs win now. I kind of hope they come through this town, and like, how am I supposed to like Nolan and Irisa and Amanda after they've held down someone who at least is on good terms with them for the time being and skinned her? Like, these are the main characters of your show. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, real quick with predictions. Yeah, let's get into predictions. Now that we've seen the first 2 episodes. TV predictions. Ooh, gotta love the scary music. Yeah. There's, again, what do you think? Predict something here, because there's so much to go with. I'm gonna predict that there is going to be a romantic thing between Kinsey and Nolan. Yes. I think that something will come out of that. I think Kinsey will start liking Earth and not want to do a harvest as much as her father will. I have to agree with you on that one. Okay. And that was because I felt like that's how they're setting up, because obviously we're going to have these dividing factors. We're going to have the VC and we're going to have the Omec, but I feel like the Omec are going to team up with the town of Defiance, because there's going to be the love thing there that Kinsey's going to find an attraction towards Nolan, and find that she's happy on Earth and doesn't want to do this thing, because again, we see that really Tvegan was sitting there scheming because he didn't want to do anything. He's like, we can't defeat them, just the 2 of us, and if we try to, we'll be killed, and that ends our race, because we got to get the stuff back to take care of everybody back in all the pods. All those pods. So they're the only 2 left. So you already know that this is definitely setting it up, and so they're going to do whatever they can to lie low until they can get what they need with the Ghoul Knight to get the rest of their pod back. But it will definitely set up a really big, season here, the VC versing that. So it's going to be interesting. But I do think what you think, that the Omec are going to end up siding with and being allies with the town. Awesome. So it's going to be interesting to see how it play out, because it's dark and heavy right from the start. Yeah, real dark and heavy. Set up for a good season. Yeah. So before we go, where can they find you? You can find me at Jesse Klein 1. That's JESSKLEIN, the number 1. And you can find me on Twitter at SMan80. That's SMN80. And again, definitely use hashtag ABTV Defiance. Love to interact with you guys. Sign up, subscribe to YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, interact. We love to hear from you all, and thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.